Welcome back to Face It with Dr. G. I'm Dr. G, and I have the honor and pleasure of having a dear friend of mine, Alex Tiersch, on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. G. It's great to see you. Great to be here. Appreciate you having me on. This is so cool. You know what? When we first on, you are on one of my first podcast episodes, and I'm like, you're going to have your own podcast. You're a natural. This is just, you're born to do this.
I love it. I love connecting with people, obviously, and it's definitely evolved from putting all the pressure on me and me talking about educational topics and injectables, business, etc., to bringing in guests, obviously, because it makes it more interesting. So,
yeah.
And I learned from you. So there you go, learning from the best.
Now, did you more enjoy doing this podcast or being a guest on other podcasts?
I like both. They both offer different pros and cons, I guess, different experiences. But as I've done this and it's grown, obviously, I feel like I get asked to be on more podcasts than ever
for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah. Are you going to ask me questions?
I know, that's why I can't help myself. I'm just, here I go. I can't help it.
So tell everyone a little bit about you. You started the American Med Spa Association, AmSpa, and you also have a conference, the Medical Spa Show, but there's a lot more to you and your background, and I think people would really benefit from hearing how unique your journey's been. So tell everyone kind of your
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that. And again, thanks for having me. And congrats on everything. I always follow your kind of your success from a distance, and it's always fun to see all the cool things you're doing. So yeah, I call myself a recovering lawyer because I am still technically a lawyer. I have my license, but that was always kind of what I was going to do with my life ever since. Let's see, I had a good friend get arrested in college, and I went to court with him, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I want to be a lawyer. And I had a bunch of family members who were lawyers, so that's kind of where I was going. But then being a lawyer sometimes kind of sucks. It was very stressful. It wasn't the most fun thing in the world for me, although I did enjoy parts of it. So what I did was, I wouldn't say that I'm a kind of a born entrepreneur, but I definitely don't like being told what to do, and I don't like to work for people. So I had a job at a corporate firm, and I was like, I just can't. So I started my own firm. I quit, much to my girlfriend at the time, now my wife's chagrin. She couldn't believe what I was doing, quit my job, started my own firm. And one of the first clients that we got, me and my partner at the time, was this RN who had a med spa. And that was how I was introduced to the industry. And it was really, really quite fascinating to hear her story, what she was going through. She was being investigated by the state of Illinois because she was doing everything illegally. Nonetheless, she was still making millions and millions of dollars. And it was just such a mess, but at the same time, it was so cool. And what she was doing, what everyone else was doing, was so interesting. And the way that they were transforming people's lives, it was really cool. And so that's kind of how it started. I hate to be I kind of feel like I almost feel embarrassed by it because it's like it was really a marketing idea to start AmSpa, to market my law practice. It's like, how do I get more clients? Well, I'll provide resources to med spas in Illinois so that they can learn how to do things correctly. They have a place to go so that they can find some basic answers. And then if they need more help, they can call me and I'll help them. Turned out to be a good idea, and we started exhibiting at shows and whatnot. And before you know it, I had people wanting to actually join, which I wasn't really anticipating. And then before you know it, there was people from Michigan and California saying, hey, why can't you do it out there? And that's where it kind of was like, wow, this might actually be something. And that's how the whole concept started as to AmSpa. And it's kind of grown from there. Obviously, there's a lot of blanks to fill in there, but that's how it started. And once I got to a point where I hooked up with my current law firm, who is Bertadado, and they're able to actually handle the legal work to allow me to not be a lawyer and focus on running AmSpa and growing it and do the event and things like that, that's when it really took off.
Yeah. So many questions. Do you remember who your first member was? The first sign up?
I don't. God, that's a good question. And we did a lot of free ones at first. I mean, we started off doing just kind of emails, a lot of free memberships. I do remember, however, gosh, and this goes way back. So Dr. Stephen Diane, who is a facial plastic surgeon here in Chicago, and he he had a meeting that we spoke at VCS, the Vegas Cosmetic Surgery, and then he had a meeting that he ran called Mastering the Business of Aesthetics. And I bring all that up is that he had a little conference room attached to his office where, I mean, this thing was tiny. And like our first event, we were selling tickets for like $25, and I was emailing everybody that I could know. And I think we brought in like somebody from the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, and it was terrifying and exhilarating. And we didn't have any members, but we were basically just giving this stuff away. And that was really kind of the first time, because we ended up getting 25 people, I think, something like that. And it was like, wow. And I was very happy with that. I was I mean, that was a success. And that was kind of like, there are a few people that I've run into who were members back then who are still members. And I can't tell you how appreciative we are of them. But I don't remember who the first one is. But man, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. So when was that? How many years ago?
Well, so 2008 is when I started my firm. So it was around then when I started, 2009, when I started the Illinois Med Spa Association. That was the first iteration, solely based on Illinois. And then AmSpa started in 2012. And that was when I had really started doing, again, Dr. Diane got me kind of hooked up, speaking on some of these aesthetic conferences on legal topics. And that's when it really started going from just being in Illinois a matter to a national matter. Yeah. And then, then we did the thing that really jump started us. Well, obviously there's a lot of markers along the way, but one thing that we did was, because med spas were so new and nobody really knew what they were doing, we did, I think I want to say 2012 maybe, we did a how to start a med spa boot camp. And we did it in this little tiny conference room. And again, we had like maybe 30 people and 2 or 3 vendors. And once we started figuring out that people needed business help even more than the legal help. So the legal help was one thing they certainly needed, and that drew them in, but very quickly realized that these are providers, these are nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians who don't have a lot of training on how to open a business, but that here they were thrust into these situations where they're bringing in millions of dollars in revenue, don't know what they're doing. And so we're like, all right, let's do an event to train them. Meanwhile, I don't know what the hell I'm doing either, but I brought people in. And that's really when it kind of started to pick up steam. That was 2012, 13, when we really started getting into that. I mean, yeah, it's been ups and downs since then.
So do you think that AmSpa primarily caters to a brand new solo location injector nurse that wants to open their own practice, or do you think you also help when those practices want to scale and grow and open multiple locations?
Well, no, it's a good question. We want to help for all of them, right? So there's no question though that because we're very focused on, and we've always started on the compliance and legal side, how you do things correctly, what are the rules you need to follow, how you set yourself up correctly. We do cater a lot to the new members. However, and that's always been the case. But lately, we're trying to shift that focus quite a bit, because lately there's a lot of, as you probably have read and heard, a lot of activity going on in the world where the older med spas, not only do they need help, they need resources, but they really need representation. The main thing we're doing right now is how do we provide a unified voice for the industry to help protect ourselves, because there's a lot of forces out there that are against us right now, and so that's our main thrust right now. So it's something that we're trying more to do. We want to be more than just something for startups, because that's not, eventually people need more help. So we're definitely both.
Can you give an example of when you say against us? What exactly do you mean?
Well, yeah. Well, for example, unless you've been living under a rock, there's been a lot of bad PR lately. There's the John Oliver segment that ran on HBO, all about med spas, and it was very, very unflattering. Several articles. There's been a kind of rash of legislation, and by the way, there's another couple articles coming out, I want to say maybe even this month or in August, that are also, they trash med spas. Like they really put them in a bad light. And there's also been some legislation. There was this legislation in Texas that was introduced that really was restrictive to med spas, and it would have changed the industry as we know it, so that a physician like you, Dr. G, who is eminently qualified, who has done so much for the industry and has really refined her craft, you would not have been able to oversee a PA or an NP in a medical spa. And you would not have been able to have multiple locations. You would not have been able to do all of the things that you do by virtue of what this law would have said in Texas, and among other things. And there's been other laws like this that have been introduced too. And what we have found is that, although we don't know this for certain, there are some groups out there that are very much against the way that med spas have developed. So the non-derm, non-plastic surgeon physicians that are running these and owning these, the expansion of nurse practitioners into independent practice, PAs that are doing a lot more. A lot of that expansion has eaten into, arguably, the turf of some of these other providers, and that's where this kind of backlash is coming. And we're seeing a concerted effort with good money being spent behind it in PR to put out negative stories, as well as lobbying to put out negative legislation against med spas that will actually change the way that we have to operate. And that's kind of what we're facing.
That's very good to know, and I think people are going to find that really useful and helpful.
It's scary. It really is scary.
Right, it is scary, and I guess that just brings me to the next question. Do you think it's easier now to start your own medical aesthetic practice because of all the resources, or do you think it's harder because people are scared of what could potentially happen or what's out there?
No, it's definitely easier from a just can I do it perspective, because there's so many more resources out there than there were before. I mean, just you look at the amount of training and the amount of we were doing our medical spa business boot camps, and I don't think we were the first ones, but we were one of the only ones for a long time. And now, I mean, there's so many of them, and that's great. There's so many ways you can learn. There's so many different pieces of software out there that track KPIs, that do all these different things, not to mention the clinical training and all the help you can get. It's much, much easier to be able to get up and running, not to mention telemedicine and all those bigger kind of companies out there that are utilizing and leveraging telemedicine to allow folks to be able to operate from different spots. That's easier. I think what is going to be harder, and what the risk is that people don't necessarily feel or understand, and we do just because we're living it, I'm living it and seeing it every day, is that all of that is well and good, but it's only contingent upon the rules being set up to allow us to operate that way. And it doesn't take very much for whether it's a legislator or a medical board to put together a rule that really, really restricts our ability. Again, and I'm not talking just NPs or PAs, a physician like you who utilizes NPs and PAs to do a lot of the work. That is really what's kind of under attack. And so it's not that it's harder, but there's a lot more risk than there used to be. And the risk of doing something wrong and getting caught, while maybe not more likely, the consequences are a lot more severe than they were even 2 years ago.
Interesting. So how is it any different than just a physician-owned pediatric practice that has PAs that see kids?
It's not, which is what's so frustrating about it.
Allowed to have, or this is just specifically med spas?
Yes. That's what's so frustrating about it, is that it's targeted at med spas. It's not saying physicians with PAs. It's physicians who work in medical aesthetics, cosmetic medicine, right? It's medical spas, medical aesthetics practices, laser practices, IV therapy practices. Which is strange because the rules are already in place. So like to your point, medical spas are nothing other than already a pediatric practice. They're governed by the same rules. You're a medical practice, you do the same things. But that's not the way it's perceived by the medical board, by the public a lot of the time. Certainly not by dermatologists out there. I don't want to pick on derms, but there's definitely a contingent of derms that aren't happy with this, and they view it very differently. Derms, not derm pathologists, by the way, Dr. G. And so like they're not. I guess that's kind of my point, is that the arguments that they're putting forward to try to get medical spas over-regulated to the point where they won't be able to operate they're not realistic, and they're not fair. They're not pointed at everybody in medicine, all physicians. It's just medical spas in general. It's not really based on real data. It's just appears to be a concerted effort to stop this exact type of business model from growing anymore.
I mean, to me, it sounds ridiculous, and I don't see how that would ever come to fruition. But
It won't if we can come together. It won't. There's no way. The size of our industry is such that there's no way they could do that. We're too big. What worries me though is that we're not together. Like even right now, I'm talking to you. There's going to be a lot of folks who have no idea. I've been talking about this for a while now. A lot of people don't realize this is happening. We have different factions that are kind of doing different things, and if we're not, the pharmaceutical companies and the device and the trainers are out there are doing different things. They're all saying different things, doing different things. We're not on the same page, and that's the problem right now. Is we've got to get unified so we can have a unified message. And if we do, then we'll be fine. We'll be fine. The sky's the limit.
Yeah. So then what does it mean for private equity? So would that mean if someone comes in and buys a practice, a private equity company, then it's okay? They can employ the NPs, the PAs?
No, I mean, private equity is kind of squarely in the middle of all this, and they've actually been one of our biggest allies in kind of this fight because exactly what you're saying. They are owners of multiple practices across multiple states. They're very, very, very big on compliance. They want to make sure that their med spas are doing things the right way. So private equity is a strong partner in being able to help us carve out what we're doing. We're not even carve out because we're not trying to carve anything out. We're trying to prevent people from carving us out. So private equity is we're very much on the same page and fighting for very much the same things. And it's the issues that we have, honestly, are with the medical spas who are kind of operating under the radar and just aren't doing things the right way. And you've got whether they're buying products from the wrong sites. They're not using they're doing things kind of underground without the right protocols. They're potentially injuring people. And it's not a lot of people that are doing that, but they are out there. And when they do things that result in an injury or a news story, that's what the public sees. They don't see all of the med spas like you that are out there operating the right way. They look at John Oliver because they're watching that show and they see that. And so that becomes the narrative. And so far, we haven't been able to put forth a common counter narrative. And that's what we have to do. And private equity's been great with that. I mean, they're one of the reasons that we're kind of doing this right now, too, is with their support.
Well, that's great. Where would you say, I don't know if you can share this information or not, but geographically, where would you say you see the most, quote unquote, illegal business practices?
No, I can absolutely say that. It's Texas or Florida, most likely. Those are the two that we see the most. Although plenty in California, certainly plenty in California. And it's not just limited to those. I mean, there's tons of them all over. I've not seen any kind of state or municipality where you don't have these places that are operating. Some are worse than others, though. And I kind of bring up Texas, not because, I love Texas and Florida too, but there is, in Texas specifically, there's kind of developed this impunity where there are med spas operating almost out in the open, blatantly illegally, without any compunction at all. They are just out there doing it. And it's almost like everyone thinks that the law is something that it's not. And that's kind of why we had some of this pushback, rightfully so, I think, in Texas with legislation. They went too far, but nevertheless, I see why they did it. It's because there is this kind of underground med spa community where it's like you've got estheticians who own the med spas. There's no physicians anywhere. There's no nurses anywhere. They're buying product from God knows where, and it's just they're selling $6-8 units of Botox, and it's scary. But they're doing it. They're doing incredible volume. They're doing incredible business. Some of them are some of them are very good too, but some of them are and that happens a lot in Texas and Florida specifically, but others as well.
Yeah. I was just going to ask one question, then I thought of another one. Going to now, you're talking about all of these businesses that are operating illegally, and that's why you really liked the idea of AmSpa, because you provided services to help them start with everything in the correct order. Mm-hmm. When you first started AmSpa, I know it started as a marketing situation. How did it evolve? What did you start offering? What services did you start offering? Because now you offer everything.
Yeah. No, I mean, at first, the membership was you get access to answers to the legal questions in your about your particular state. Anyone who has a med spa has probably grappled with who needs to be on site when provider X is doing, you know, treatment Y, right? What is the supervisory requirements? What do you need to, there's ownership requirements for who can own and what types of things you need to do as far as who's on site, who needs to see patients first. Those kinds of things were really where it started. And that has always been kind of where we made most of our initial headway with the new members, new med spas, is that whether you're a physician or a business person and you open a med spa, you want to know, what can I do? Like, what do I need to learn? Do I need more training? What kind of training do I need? Those kinds of questions. We offered that from the beginning. We then moved into, okay, well, what else? Obviously, that's not going to be enough. So we've started doing clinical training videos. We have some of those that we've started a little bit later on, but we've developed quite a robust library from all of our conferences of all the different clinical training videos that we have. Benefits, so whether you need insurance, whether you need to connect with others in your state. We've recently, which we're excited about because we're growing it, is our kind of local communities, our state chapters. So if you're in New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, where you are, there's a group of people that you can reach out to who are in your same position, who maybe have the same issues. You can, whether it's want to do a mastermind, things like that. Basically, anything that you need, we want to be able to provide. Now, also advocacy and lobbying is something that we're getting into, and then events and discounts on all the things that we offer. So all of our vendors that support us offer discounts on some of the products that they offer through us. We want to get to a point where we can be like kind of a larger, almost like a GPO, group buying thing, where folks can become a member of AmSpa and know that they're going to get kind of the best pricing on things. Because I think with our volume, 4,000 members, we should be able to do that. So it's kind of become everything from training, education, to all the protocols, documents, consent forms you could ever want, and all of our members also get a consultation with a lawyer at Bertadata, which is really cool. They spend a lot of time talking to folks about what their problems are, what they need, and how to help. So that about covers it. I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, that's awesome. So going back to the training, when you say, you have this library and all of these resources for people, do you believe that there ever will be a unified degree or training or certificate that's universally accepted and required to inject in the U.S.?
Yes.
Which part? Yes.
I mean, I do. I mean, yes, I do. I think I think we're a ways off still, but we are, we're interested in that, and we've got. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in that. Not even necessarily because, I think if you're in the industry and you're experienced and you're a clinician like yourself and you're a good injector, you kind of know, and you've trained and you follow the standard of care anyway. But just from an outside perspective, I think we need something like that just so that we can start to suss out some of the negative aspects of it. But we're a long way off from that because there's not a lot of agreement right now. The one thing that we've been trying to do is find some of the common ground where we can say, all right, let's have AIA, which is the Academy for Injection Anatomy, which is owned by AmSpa, is launching an injector credential, which is basically a course and a test where it is, okay, this will show you that you know certain anatomical functions, you've tested on the anatomy.
But what does that mean?
That will get you a credential. Say again?
What does it mean? I mean,
it means, so, and that's a good question, right? So if you do a credential, like, what does that mean? Does that mean you're an expert injector? No, not to us. It means just that you have taken enough anatomy classes and you know enough of the anatomy and how to handle complications where you have at least shown a proficiency in how to do the basics safely. Doesn't mean that you're going to do the perfect lip, right? But what we want to do, and what a lot of folks have shown interest in, is at least being able to show that you know facial anatomy to enough of an extent to be able to stick a needle in somebody's face number one. And number two, notice and deal with the complication if it shows up.
Yeah.
If you
And I
can
personally,
show how to do that,
yeah,
then
well,
that would be,
sorry, I cut you off.
no, go ahead.
I personally think, I mean, obviously, as a physician, you have an NPI number, you have your state license number. And
Yep.
I think that the issue is that you can order on, if you have the physician, medical director, anyone can inject under them. So I personally think that anyone that is injecting should have a number assigned to them for the state. So this wouldn't be nationwide, it would be per state, so that they can inject / order product through a physician. So that's, I think, how you stay accountable. I mean, I went to medical school.
Yeah.
It's required to see patients. I mean, there has to be something that's required, right?
I mean, that pretty much already exists in every other area of medicine. Like that's the kind of the rules of the road right now is that you're a physician, you can order drugs using your number, but like what happens in our industry doesn't happen in other. You don't go to a primary care doctor or the emergency room and only see an RN and never see a doctor and get written a prescription and everything get treated and never see an NP or a doctor. You only see an RN. That only happens in med spas. Like in med spas, you go, and it's illegal in med spas too. So like the rules are there. It's just for whatever reason, med spas have kind of grown up without that rule being enforced against them. And so a lot of folks have started to believe that those rules don't apply to them because they are somehow different. The term medical spa does not help. Having the spa term in it is not helpful because that leads you to believe that they're not all medical treatments. But like, so I've never been to any, whether it's a physician's office, urgent care, anything, you always at least see a nurse practitioner. And that's what I always tell folks who are asking me, from the public side or if I'm interviewed, on the news or whatever. It's like when you go to the doctor, this is what happens. And a medical spa is no different. So if you're not seeing an NP, a PA, or a physician on some level, there's a problem. And so to your point, that is the safeguard. You're supposed to have somebody who is licensed to, following the standard of care to prescribe, set a treatment plan, create treatment orders, and oversee and supervise the treatments. And that's only an MDDO, or in some cases, if done correctly, PA or NP.
Yeah. So in general, what would you think is the the most common mistake that med spas make that you've seen? Would it be this concept or what?
No, I mean, I would love to say it's the compliance thing because that's like, I could geek out on that some more. But it's like, because there's a lot of compliance mistakes. The issue is most med spas, even though they're making compliance mistakes, most med spas are great and they're safe, right? They're doing things the right way. Like even if they're not 100% compliant, they're very safe. They're doing things 99% right. So, and most of them also aren't getting investigated. There's just not a lot of enforcement out there. So the risk of something happening to you is pretty low. The mistakes that I see tend to be with spending. When med spas are either opening or trying to grow, they go out and they either buy a ton of cool machines because they want to, have every latest thing and have every possible machine, or their competitor has something and they're like, oh, I've got to have it. And so you end up having, $2 million worth of equipment and you don't have the ability to bring in that type of revenue to cover it. Or like you're expanding and you build the Taj Mahal and you're not quite smart enough on how to do that. Really the biggest mistake is just not having the business acumen to manage cash flow and plan for needing cash, using cash. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would agree. And I pretty much taught myself everything until I was like, I need help.
That's what everyone does in this industry. It really is. It's crazy.
Yeah. What would you say was the hardest time in your life with the growth of AmSpa? So it grew really quickly. Did you have a pivotal moment? Did you financially struggle?
No, that's a good question.
It was all perfect.
I mean, no. I mean, no. I mean, 2012 is when I started, and the first med spa show was 2017. And so we had some real lean years in there where I wasn't sure if it was going to do anything more, and it might kind of be the end. And I wasn't, I was like, all right, it's great. I'll go back to being a lawyer and that's fine, or I'll do something else. And I wasn't quite sure that it was going to last, or that it had the legs to last, or that I had the stamina. Because, to start a business and keep it going for the years and years you need to, like, it takes energy, sustained energy. And, as human beings, you ebb and flow in that kind of thing. And so there was definitely a period, I want to say probably 14, 15, where it was touch and go for a bit, where I wasn't sure I was going to continue it. That's actually when I met in 2016, when I met Michael Bird, Bird Adato at a bar and at a conference in Vegas, when we kind of struck up our relationship. And that really is what kind of saved it, helped us go to the next level, because I was burnt out. Because I was practicing law, I was handling all the clients that I was getting, and I was trying to run it. We had, Kathy Christensen on board, and she was doing everything she could to keep us going, but we just weren't making enough money. And so it was pretty much do or die at that point. And then that was it. Now I'll tell you, right now also is not so easy. It's just with what's going on with the industry. It's a lot of med spas aren't doing as well as they used to be. And there's a lot that are doing just fine, but we've definitely seen some folks who haven't been. And so I think also with the turbulence that we're seeing, in the engine now, AmSpa is in much better, thank God, position as far as our size. So I'm not at all worried about not being able to continue. But yeah, that was probably the biggest challenge. Was right around then, 2014.
Yeah, and I just think
But
it's
here I
so
am.
cool to hear that. Yeah, here you are, because it's all about people and connections. And I would say when I hit massive burnout in 2021, it wasn't massive, but it was definitely burnout.
Yeah.
I had to delegate. I didn't have a choice. And up to that point, I was such a control freak. Everything needed to be done my way.
Yeah.
I wrote it down to tell someone to do it. I thought I could do it faster than even writing it down. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
It's true.
yeah. And so my burnout, delegation, and that's when my company really started to take off.
Yeah. It's counterintuitive, right? Like until you do it, you can't imagine that working, because you just think it's going to crater everything, because nobody can see inside your head. Nobody can envision what you're envisioning. And so the idea of allowing somebody else to take over these important components it's anathema to what you've done your entire existence of your business. So it's really difficult to do that.
It is difficult, but then you realize how dumb you are and closed-minded you are, because your ideas are actually not always the best ones. So now you realize the dynamic and the education and the ideas that other people have are actually way better than mine.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and the other thing is, especially in this industry, you are only one person, and you're, the Dr. G, right? And so you're you've got your brand, but there's no way that you can treat every single patient that wants to see you. There's just not enough time in the day or enough energy for you to do that. So how are you going to scale yourself? It's impossible, because there's only one of you. So you have to duplicate and delegate everything else, right? The experience. And I think that's also really, really hard to do, because nobody's going to do it the same as you. And giving up some of that control is scary, because what if they do something that you don't agree with? It's frightening, but it's the only way to grow.
Yeah, it is. And I think the hardest part is when you bring in your first injector, your first two injectors maybe, because it is really, I had to train them, and I brought in people that didn't have experience. But after that, I was more open-minded about people that had experience and teaching the G-Face way, or whatever you want to say about it. And then I made it more automated, so it didn't have to be me. It's online, and so it's measurable, trackable, and reproducible, in the sense that everyone's expected to do these certain core services a certain way, and they're tested on it, and it's maintained that way. However, you still want to have uniqueness with each injector. Everyone's their own person, and they put their little twist on it. But once it's not just you as the leader teaching them, everyone teaches each other. So then you get new providers that come in, and it's not just me, it's other more experienced providers. And we even created this thing called the lead aesthetic nurse. I just made it up one day, but it's become a thing where they do a rotation. They have to do at least 6 months of this position in order to soon be a clinical lead at one of the locations. But they run all of the injectors and learn by teaching, right? And by getting
awesome.
And all that. So in order for anything to get to me at this point, it has to go through so many people that it really doesn't ever get to me unless it's a big decision. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's, how long did it take for you to get, you said 2021 when you were, it's 25 now. How long did it take for you to start allowing those other components to kind of run interference so you weren't making every last decision?
How long? Wait, say that again?
Yeah, like how long? How long did it take you to become comfortable with that? Like, what was that process?
Not that long because it was in my mind for so long, but I just
Hmm.
didn't have the people to orchestrate it and make it come to reality. I would say probably 2 years.
Okay, I mean that's not a small amount of time, and I think
Yeah.
what's tough for people. Burnout is a real thing in this industry, especially for the folks who are running. Like, if you're an injector and you're growing your practice, it's hard. Like, you're doing manual labor kind of, and you're doing everything else, and you're the marketing function and everything is that's. I mean, you went through that. I remember watching it, and it's really difficult. It takes a lot out of you, and I can and in order to do what you did and to scale, to offload. This is your brand, right? And a lot of times the injectors are building their business around themselves. And so
That's what's
how
so
are you,
messed up about this industry. It's so backwards.
yeah. Well, it's like, and how are you going to relinquish control over your own image and your own way of doing it? And that was actually a question for you as you were talking. I was wondering, like, how do you, like, are you ever worried about your injectors becoming big by themselves and then going off and leaving? Because I always hear that from folks. They don't want to, they're going to train someone and they're going to leave.
Yeah, it's always something that I think about, but I think people are less interested in starting their own businesses now. They know how expensive. We've become so transparent with everything in the company with respect to cost and all of that. They see how much it takes. I mean, to create a G face is really, really, really hard, and I think people would rather be part of a team and a group of individuals than go off and do it on their own. I mean, there are people that still want to do that, but it's lonely and people love an amazing culture. And what I would tell someone who's scared that people are going to leave is they will. It's happened. That's how I learned the most is that people leave, and that just means they weren't the right fit for your company. And you have to invest in your people. I mean, we are expanding what we offer to them because employees have come to me and said, this is what I want, or this is what I want, and I think we should offer this. I'm like, let's do it. This is anything from expanded health coverage, dental, vision, to 401ks, to potentially stock option plans, which I love learning about. And why do I want to grow to sell at a certain number alone? I would, with me, grow 10 times the size, and they're part owners. I mean, what could I be more proud of, right? But people don't think that way. They think, oh, I just want to go on stage and talk and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's great too, but what's your end goal? And then let's work backwards from that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's a great way to think about it. You can't. I think if you're so worried about people leaving all the time, you're going to force people to leave. And if you just focus on having a good culture and making a good place to work and being a nice person and having a good place, people aren't going to leave, or they're not going to leave as much. And some people are going to leave no matter what. It's the way that it goes. And then I love your answer. To me, the best way to become successful is helping other people become successful.
Yes,
It's so much more fulfilling, and you get to be a part of it. It's really, really cool, which is what I mean with the MedSpa show. I love that because there's folks that we're seeing who are now, big stars on the main stage who are doing things that are kind of big celebrities that I remember when they were nothing. And it's just kind of cool to see the evolution of everybody. And we're seeing kind of right now there are people who are going to be huge mega celebrities in our industry in the next 18 months. And I'm just getting to meet them just now and get to see what they become. It's really cool. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is cool. What do you mean by celebrity, though? Because when people throw this word around, we still are just in an aesthetic space. So is social media making them a celebrity? What's making them a celebrity?
Yeah, well, and I mean celebrity within our particular industry, right? So, although I mean, I guess they're social media celebrities too, right? So it's like, but for me, it's like there are folks, and I would put you in this category too. It's like when you go to whether it's the medical spa show or another conference, people recognize you and they know who you are, and so and there are a lot of folks where that is just because they have done a good job marketing. More power to them. That's great. Doesn't necessarily mean anything other than they've done a good job branding themselves and putting it out there. But they have a certain amount of celebrity or notoriety within the industry. And then I think taking it to another level, there's those who have that, but then they also have the massive kind of public following too, which blows me away. But for me, I've always looked at it as there are those who are kind of the industry luminaries. I think in any industry, but in our industry, it seems much more celebrity because
Yeah.
social media, Instagram is where kind of everyone lives, and TikTok, obviously. And because it's a bit flashy and some of the events are flashy, like when you have really well known injectors who are doing things, especially injectors, they tend to draw a lot of attention when you go to events, and it's just kind of funny seeing it in action, seeing the way people just like look at others, like, wow, there's Dr. G. Like I've seen that with you, hanging out with you before, like where people have been like, oh my God, Dr. G. And it's like, it's kind of bizarre, right? I mean, it's not like, because you are not taking anything away from what you've built, but you're a physician and, you're a provider, and that's what you've done. And that's amazing. And that should be celebrated. Like you're not a movie star who's put out a massive, global hit, but still for some of these people, that's how it feels. And I think that's cool though. I like it and I embrace it. And I think it's kind of fun to see.
Are people like, oh, there's Alex. He started AmSpa. Like he started.
I mean, not as much. Not as much. Fortunately for me, I don't really do my whole Instagram thing, although I should. I keep telling myself I'm going to do Instagram. I need to.
So yeah, I think it's funny and interesting because are they celebrities because of just who they are and they've have this huge following on social media, or are you a celebrity because of what you've created? And so I think it's shifting for me. I started on my own and it was all like Dr. G, Dr. G, have you seen this? She
Yeah,
talks a lot. And now it's almost like, no, she owns G Face, which is
for sure.
exactly what I wanted to happen. And I want to become obsolete. So we're going to make that happen.
For sure. Well, and I think that the only way that's going to work is if you are successful over time, right? And there's plenty of people I'm thinking of in the past. I'm not going to name anybody out loud, but like who have been flashes in the pan, and then you don't hear from them again. And that's great. A couple of years that are great, but it's like the only way you're going to be enduring is if you build a business that lasts longer than a couple of years. And it's, look, I tell these people all the time, like right now especially, and it's getting more difficult, but right now it's easy to become an aesthetic injector or open a smallish med spa and be successful and quote unquote famous for a couple years. And I don't mean easy, but like there's enough demand out there where you can do it. But what's difficult is to continue to do that over the course of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And that's where it's, having run AmSpa now for 12 years, I can tell you like years 9, 10, 11, and 12 become really, really difficult for different reasons,
Yeah, it's really hard. And you have to be okay with being alone and losing friends, losing relationships, being really lonely. I mean, it is. And you're exhausted and it changes who you are. It should be in a good way, but it really changes who you are. And yes, you get very tired.
Man, do we need to have like a clinical session here to talk?
I need a therapist. Immediately, I need a therapist. This is why I do the
I mean,
podcast, so it's therapy.
no,
You know that?
you know what? No, but your point about it, like it is lonely at the top. Like if you're a CEO founder, it's tough because the only people they can relate to are other founders. Like you can't talk to your spouse. Even other business owners in other industries don't know what you're going through. Like even you and I, like when we would talk, years ago, it's like we're both business owners, but like I don't know what it's like to run a med spa. You don't know what it's like to run an association. So it's like we can't really relate on that level. But it's like it really is. It's tough. You don't have someone you can't go home and unload on somebody, which is why I'm always kind of jealous of the husband-wife teams that are out there.
There's a
But at the
lot.
same time, I'm like,
There's a lot.
there are. I know. I feel like that can't work though.
I
It's
don't
just like,
understand how, but I also look at it like that's not fair because I've done it myself, and I've wanted to do it
yeah,
myself, but yeah, it's not fair.
it's cool. I think it's cool to see. Like, I love it. I don't know that my wife and I, I don't know. We'd probably kill each other.
It's just for a certain type of person, but it is
Yeah.
lonely at the top. And as much as I think I did a podcast with someone about how it's not lonely at the top, and I explained why, because you want to bring everyone with you. But at the end of the day, when you break it down, it is lonelier
Yeah.
at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well,
I guess we'll end on that note.
yeah. So
Let's go make some friends.
start your own med spa. It's awesome.
Start your own med spa. You go insane. You're really tired. You burn out, and it's
Yeah.
lonely.
But I will say though, it's what you're describing is very real and it's very true. However, there are a lot of folks who are going through that. And so part of the reason like we want to be better at AmSpa for folks who are not just startups is because like having an outlet where you can talk, because there's so many physicians that are just like you, that are going through the exact same thing or were going through the exact same thing at the exact same time. And you just got to connect. And the more that you can connect with other people, it helps with that. So it doesn't have to be as lonely. It's just in order to get to that point where you're reaching out and getting that, talking to folks, you have to go through it. And it is kind of tough. It is tough and everyone does it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you have to love what you do, and I definitely love what I do.
You have to love it.
I
You
love
do.
what I do. I
And it's
love
worth
people
it.
around me. Yeah, and you have to surround yourself with good people. It's the brand
Yeah.
name, but it truly is who's in that company. So that's why I do what I do.
Well, I have a G-face tattoo, so I'm on board.
God, didn't know that one. I need to get one. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. Where can people contact you or AmSpa?
Yeah, AmericanMedSpa.org is our website. AmericanMedSpa underscore AmSpa is or AmSpa underscore American Med Spa is our Instagram / whatever. That's about all I know.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
you have your conference.
And medicalspashow.com too. Medicalspashow.com if you want to learn more about that.
Yeah, which is an awesome conference. So thank you guys for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.